From 4-lane Ends Turnpike to Border Hill Turnpike is the longest stretch of roads and lanes on this route. Having said that, it's just 9 miles, but it's packed full of interest, so watch today's thrilling episode and don't forget to subscribe, because it helps. The turnpike lane from 4-lane Ends is called Finkel Street Lane. It has a farm that used to be a pub called the Sycamore Tree, and a street next to the farm which used to be called Finkel Street. And that's why this lane is called Finkel Street Lane, because it goes to Finkel Street. And on Finkel Street was the workhouse for the poor. Finkel sounds like Venkel, which is Dutch for fennel, and chewing fennel seeds suppresses hunger. Think about that. Wortley railway station used to be on the left just before this railway bridge, but no trains stop here anymore because there are no tracks anymore. On the left was a bridle path, now marked as a footpath, to Wortley Mill, and Wortley Mill's gone too. Travellers sometimes took a shortcut to Greenmore through the mill yard and over the Riverdon Ford. Most people identify Wortley with what they drive through on the A629, but Wortley extended to the end of Forge Lane. And this is Forge Lane, known as such because it had a forge on it, which used to be called Wortley Forge, hidden behind the trees, which you'll see on the left eventually. On the other side of Forge Bridge is another forge called Wortley Top Forge. Both forges use the Riverdon for power, so I can't see the top forge being higher than the bottom forge. Perhaps it was a matter of preference. Perhaps top forge was the tops turning out superior work. Who knows? The Riverdon meanders through the trees to our left, eventually reaching Doncaster, 17 miles away. This is Forge Bridge, and we're off up the hill to Greenmore. Except for the shortcut through Wortley Mill, the turnpike travellers would travel up Well Hill, like we're doing. It's a long drawn-out climb rising by 300 feet by the time the road flattens out. And up to a few years ago it had an inn, which the drovers would know as the Rock Inn, which was set below a bit of a cliff. But that's now gone, replaced by Stoneway Mews. And mews means a group of stables with rooms above, built round a yard or along an alley, and you can see these are not. Surprisingly, the Methodist church building remains. The lanes we are now on have similarities with those we travelled from Rotherham in that wherever possible the route took the high ground with views either side to be able to see the dangers of being attacked and robbed. It wasn't just sheep that travelled on the Rotherham Saltersbrook Turnpike Road, it was all kinds of goods that were in demand either side of the Pennine Hills. Rotherham's fat stock market was the trading centre for sheep and cattle from as far afield as Leicestershire to go on to Manchester either directly for butchery or to fatten up further. And one of the return trades was salt from the witches of Northwich, Nantwich and Middlewich in Cheshire, and possibly cheese. The importance of the salt trade is demonstrated by the vast distance travelled before reaching the Saltersbrook point of this turnpike route. That's some 46 miles compared with barely 20 from the Rotherham side. Salt was the preservative of the butchery trade. There were no freezers in those days, and Rotherham, being a major fat stock market, would have butchered a great number of sheep and cattle to satisfy the local demand for meat, and to stop it going rancid, salt was used as a preservative. Thus this route was used by pack horsemen carrying salt in baskets hung either side of a horse's back. At walking pace, the delivery journey could take 3 days, including stopovers at the various inns en route or even camping out in the woods. The return journey might well have been on horseback, making for a 1 or 2 day return. These were the 18th century equivalent of the long distance truck driver. In part 2 we saw Packhorse Lane and the Packhorse Inn, as well as travellers' inns in both parts 1 and 2, and other inns, suggesting that this was a busy route. This section of the route is called Salters Hill Lane. On Salters Hill, next to the Salter Plantation, Salter Hill Quarry and nearby Salter Hill House. The route itself being to Saltersbrook, and perhaps it was thanks to the salt trade that this route came into being. At Throstlenest, the road name changes to Cranberry Road, and we passed the Cranberry Inn on the left, which is now a farm, and was most likely a farm which turned itself into a beer house for the passing trade. Then the road name changes to Mossley Road, and there are two massive dry stone circular enclosures either side of the road, and again further along another two called Ringwoods. It is possible that these were used to shelter livestock from the harsh weather this part of the route can be exposed to, and possibly for many days requiring large enclosures for sufficient grazing for a long stay. The old map shows them as part of plantations, meaning there was tree cover which offered further protection from the elements. And perhaps the drovers might stay at the various houses and inns along the route. Between these rings is the Doubting, a house and a plantation by that name. Perhaps it was where travellers at last were able to see over to the Pennine Hills and maybe doubted the weather and decided to stay put. We don't know, and that's just a wild guess. The road now passes through Hartcliffe, a mainly downhill section meandering down to meet with the Doncaster and Saltersbrook Turnpike Route, which comes through Millhouse Green, merging from the right. This is a relatively flat area, indeed being known as Border Hill Flat, which weaves its way between the parishes of Langsett and Dunford. The new road bypasses the new inn at Flouch, with a new roundabout where the A616 joins the A628 Barnsley to Mottram Road. We're now at the start of the Woodhead Pass, and at the Dog and Partridge Inn our drovers approach the third turnpike, the Border Hill Turnpike, before reaching nearly 1500 feet above sea level, and we'll begin here in part 4.